Good evening, and thank you for attending my thesis presentation on the effectiveness of constant time delay for sight word competency for third grade English L1 students in the Spanish dual immersion setting. My name is James Quinn, and I attend Touro University, California's Graduate School of Education and pursuing a Master's of Arts in Teaching and Learning. Constant time delay, also known as CTD, is a near errorless prompting teaching strategy that showed as an effective intervention to teach sight words. Studies such as Gass et al. 1990, Broder and Zen 1998, Rowena et al. 2002, Appleman et al. 2014, and more showed this procedure effective in helping students and learners. And this research study evaluated the effectiveness of a 5-second constant time delay with 10 Spanish sight words with a multiple baseline design. A purposive sample of 3 English L1 third grade students at a Spanish dual immersion DI school, as well as a convenient sample from the researcher's own classroom. During COVID-19 pandemic distance learning, it was all online. And after 3 inquiry cycles, all 3 participants' prompted responses showed that they responded to CTD in the therapeutic direction. Spanish DI schools need a reliable procedure for teaching Spanish sight words that will lead to increased student reading fluency at grade level. The need for this study is that a lot of students start third grade reading in Spanish below grade level at the Spanish DI school that the researcher teaches at, and each school year seeing this need brought up this study, as well as the lack of literature on CTD procedure for Spanish sight word acquisition, which I will talk about in the literature review. Some important key terms to go over include constant time delay, as I said, CTD. It refers to a response prompting procedure that uses a consistent time, such as 5 seconds, for a person to respond or not. It prompts errorless learning, so it promotes it by using prompts, and it reinforces correct responses as well as a no response. So participants have the choice to not respond. The point being that if a participant does not know it, it's better not to say anything. That way they're associating the correct response with what the researcher or teacher provides. It promotes memorization of rote skills such as sight words, vocabulary definitions, and basic multiplication facts. Sight words are words read with automaticity, that is in about 3 seconds or less. And sight word acquisition shows as the building block to reading fluency by promoting reading accuracy through instant word recognition. And sight words and high frequency words really go hand in hand, because high frequency words, while they are frequently seen in text, hence the name, sight words are specifically words that are just read very quickly. And this study used 3 inquiry cycles where the results show that all 3 participants, they benefited from the intervention with unprompted correct responses first, and they are ordered from highest reading level, participant 1, lowest reading level, participant 3, and then participant 2 in the middle. So they're intentionally leveled. Participant 1, highest, participant 2, second highest, 3, third highest, while all still needing intervention because they purposely were selected by the researcher due to their below Spanish reading level based on recent running record assessments. And inquiry cycle number 1, data was collected on Friday, February 26th, 2021. And IC stands for incorrect, C stands for correct, NR stands for no response. And you could see how participant 1, as predicted, he scored the highest across unprompted, prompted, if you're just looking at those two columns. Really showing mastery just after one inquiry cycle. And this would be his second exposure to the words, because prior to that, the researcher did a baseline assessment of 100 Spanish sight words. And from those 100 Spanish sight words, the researcher selected the ones that the 3 participants missed overall. And that was how those 10 sight words were selected. So using those same 10 sight words, 2 more inquiry cycles occurred. And the second inquiry cycle occurred about 7 weeks later, unfortunately, as opposed to 2 weeks later, which was intended for the timeline due to absences, which I'll get to in limitations. So Wednesday, April 14th, 2021, data were collected, and participant 1 once again showing mastery on unprompted. So before even prompting the participant in the small group setting on how to correctly pronounce the word. So the prompting includes like a practice round of all 10 words where the researcher or the interventionist says the word and then the participant echoes it. Meanwhile, the rest of the participants are listening in to promote observational learning. And participant 1 showed the same results for inquiry cycle 3 as well. And then for participant 2 is really interesting to see that his results for prompted was a 10 after getting repeated exposures, and he didn't ever choose the no response option. However, participant 3, she actually decreased, which was a surprise. But upon further investigation into her home life, a confounding variable showed that between inquiry cycle 1 and inquiry cycle 2, her mother birthed a newborn brother for her, and participant 3 commented that her new brother was keeping her up at night, which the researcher predicts likely affected her results. So every intervention from each of the 3 inquiry cycles, the entire study occurred only in the morning, so confounding variable definitely include tiredness that could affect data. So she scored 7 for unprompted and 2 for incorrect unprompted, and she had 1 no response. But then the prompting with the 5-second constant time delay procedure really showed to help, because she increased. But that could also be due to the fact that she heard two of her peers ahead of her giving correct responses overall. So she likely benefited from those two things. For the third inquiry cycle, we see, again, like I said, participant 1, mastery, participant 2, having that same data. Participant 3, again, scoring lower, but even lower for incorrect, not giving any no response this time, but then benefiting with the prompts. So limitations, I talked a bit about. The small sample size could limit the study, using 3 as opposed to maybe 4 to 5, though this study intends to use the small group because research showed, if we look at the literature review, the usage and effectiveness in acquiring the target skills in a small group. We could see that a lot of studies showed that students will benefit from observational learning. But you don't want to increase the size of that small group too much, but it could yield greater results. As well as experimenter bias could limit this study because the students came from a convenient sample. The study did not include a control group. A treatment and control group that compares the data with the rest of the class would improve internal validity of a 5-second CTD. Also, cross-comparing multiple Spanish DI schools could give an extra set of more reliable data looking at a larger population. Moreover, to observe potential trends in learning would increase external validity. So it's recommended that further research occurs in this genre and that this study is repeated and modified, hopefully in person would really show a difference, but it's interesting to have the distance learning setting. The highlight from the study, I would say, is that the prompting in the small group setting did seem to help, but with additional time that's followed on a consistent timeline would yield more internal validity. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And to contact me, I'm at james.quinn@tu.edu. Thank you.